Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. It's so good of you to join me here today. So today I want to take the time to discuss a very interesting topic that has come up and one that I have discussed previously on this channel. Now, I love how history keeps repeating itself because a few years ago I made a video talking about why the United States should buy Greenland. Now, I kind of made that video in somewhat jest because I thought, well, it'd be really cool and interesting to see some beachfront properties in the middle of Greenland, and Donald Trump, being a real estate guy, would want to do that. But in reality, let's get serious about this topic because I've seen all kinds of discussion and debate go up around the idea of purchasing Greenland. Now, if you follow US politics, you know that the idea was not exactly as warmly or well received. And a lot of people are saying, well, I don't think Donald Trump can buy Greenland even if he wanted to which I say, well, the United States has purchased land in the past, and it's not outside the realm of possibility for the United States to seize on geopolitical interest for its own favor. Now, famously, the United States operates on a Monroe Doctrine, which means that we should have strategic and full control of our hemisphere. That means that the countries like Canada, Mexico, and further south, do they have a say in their politics and do they have independence? Absolutely. But when it comes to strategical alliances, their positions and their views on what they can and cannot do, there are somewhat limitations and guardrails that the United States places even on its own partners. And don't be confused. The United States does this because at the end of the day, the United States should be looking out just for the United States. It is in the political interest of the United States to create opportunities for itself and its people. Now, Greenland might seem like a really crazy and far-fetched idea to go after, and like I said, like the idea of it is kind of out of nowhere and out of the blue, but it really isn't when you really dig down into the issue of Greenland itself. And why is it that it's being discussed? Well, it's because Donald Trump sees a couple of things unfolding in the world today. The first one is the Arctic ice caps. Now, if we take a look at the Arctic ice caps right here. Now, look at where the medians used to be back in the 1980s. You see this little red line. Maybe it's a little harder to see, but you can see that the extent here on the left image is more further out, right? And during certain periods of the year, the entirety of the Arctic Ocean was frozen over all the way to the land, preventing any sort of passage in between the two oceans here, this being the Pacific and this being the Atlantic. Now in 2020 and further, now you have a thawing of the ice caps. This is a result of the changing climate. And basically now you have opportunities to, create shortcuts across the Arctic and to develop the Arctic for potential future trade routes. If we look at the map right here, we can see that Greenland, though it may be in the middle of nowhere and up north, it is centrally positioned around these passages, as we would call the Northwest and the North in the Atlantic, in the Northern Sea route. So one goes up through here, through Russia, towards Norway, and towards Europe. Another one would come here across Alaska, Canada, and back towards the United States. And critically, it would cut right near Denmark. What is currently considered part of Denmark, although semi-autonomously, in the form of Greenland. And Greenland would be an important choke point and an important strategic location for the control of these sea routes. Now, Canada would get most of the benefit of the sea route. However, having the United States having this land would give them a huge measure of control of this route going forward. And the United States does not play second fiddle to anybody. So if the United States sees it in their interest to take something like Greenland, which, by the way, only has a population of 55,000 people, as we can see here, then the United States will do just that. That's just in American history. America does whatever it needs to do to maintain its geopolitical interest. That's why the United States is the superpower that it is today. It's because it will make those choices even if the world sometimes might see them as unpopular or unfavorable, so on and so forth. The United States, at the end of the day, wants to control sea routes, much like its predecessor, the British Empire, did, although the United States does it in a very different way with the strategic use and placement of military bases and naval power projection. So here we are. Greenland, Donald Trump wants to buy Greenland to control these passageways because the geopolitical adversaries of the United States, such as Russia and China, would use these routes to enrich themselves through trade with Europe and other states around the area, such as between here and towards south, towards Africa and even South America. And the reason this Northwest Passage is also important is because right now the only way to get to Europe and to Northern Africa is through the Suez Canal, and to get between the eastern seaboard of the United States and the western is through the Panama Canal. Two major choke points which could be shut down through any number of ways. The Middle East, for example, not exactly known for being a hub of stability in the world. So what does that mean? Well, what that means is that the United States and Donald Trump see a future where the United States could benefit greatly through the acquisition of Greenland, much as it has done so before in the past. Now, as somebody who grew up in Montana, I learned famously about the Louisiana Purchase, because Montana was kind of like a territory that was added as a result of that purchase. And two famous explorers in their team went through Montana by the name of Lewis and Clark. And what were Lewis and Clark looking for? What did Thomas Jefferson send Lewis and Clark out after? Well, none other than the Northwest Passage. Now, they didn't find the Northwest Passage because once they hit the Rockies, they realized there is no river that cuts east to west. Now, Thomas Jefferson might have been an idealist and thought he maybe could have cut a canal through that, but anybody who's been in the Rockies knows that's not going to happen, and there's no way to do that. But right now, in front of the United States, a 250-plus-year-old dream of connecting the East and the West is right in front of us. And the thing that would help the United States control this is this semi-autonomous nation of Greenland and the 50,000 people that live there. And if the United States makes a deal for this, I will just say this. The United States will, one way or another, achieve its goal, especially if Donald Trump convinces the American people that it is in the best interest of the American people to have control over this land. And as I said, because Donald Trump has won so convincingly in the last presidential election, he doesn't have the same hang-ups he did before. Unlike in 2016, where the question of his presidential legitimacy were put into the forefront, and that's what the American people spent their time debating on. This time, there is no such debate. Donald Trump has control and authority, and because he is seen as kind of this change candidate in the United States, can reshape the United States towards a new goal, towards a new form of imperialistic destiny that the United States can have, similar to what the United States had with Manifest Destiny 2.0. Okay, or sorry, this would be a Manifest Destiny 2.0. So Manifest Destiny was originally the idea that the United States has the absolute right to settle from coast to coast. The United States has a right to control all land between the east and the west of of North America, no questions asked, and it does so to this day. And with Greenland, it would give them the opportunity to control and to some degree police the trade routes along the Northwestern Passage, which has historically been one of America's most major goals, stretching all the way back to its founding. So if you think that the United States is going to give up this control and let Europe or whoever else have this autonomy, you are mistaken. And also, based on the last few years of geopolitical, me watching geopolitical news, I have come to the conclusion that Europe has no foreign policy of its own. Europe is so solely dependent on the power and the military projection of the United States, and the U.S. military power, that there is no chance that if the United States really presses its weight on this, that the Europeans would object in any sort of meaningful way that would prevent the United States from taking this control of Greenland, especially since Greenland is in the North American sphere rather than that of the European. And this is the last real vestige of European power in the North American continent. So right now, with the thawing of the ice caps, America is looking for its opportunity, and I believe Donald Trump is trying to seize upon this opportunity to develop routes and power through the Arctic, much in the same way that Russia and China are looking to do so today, with Russia already building military bases, ports, and trade hubs on their northern front. Much in the same way, America wants to create its own northern front, and again, there is not going to be as much opposition as people think, especially with the fact that America is looking for a new direction to go in. Now, would we go into Manifest Destiny 2.0? I would say the probability is not exactly high, but it's not zero either. Because if you saw what has happened in the world the last couple of years between, for example, Syria and Turkey, or Israel and Palestine, or Russia and Ukraine, you would not be mistaken to assume that America would look to seize on its own opportunities for its own territorial expansion. And this is what Trump is looking at. This would give him the power and authority to expand the United States to Greenland. Would we outright annex it? I doubt it. But would America create a strong presence, set itself mining rights, trade rights, and other rights across Greenland, and sort of squeeze Denmark out? Absolutely, especially since the European Union as a body cannot come together and stand on its own 2 feet to say anything against the United States, because the European Union is so solely dependent on US military power for protection and for its own power projections. So the European Union plays a second fiddle, and the United States absolutely, if Donald Trump can sell this idea, him being a real estate man and having already sold himself to the American people 2 times, he can probably do it. We will see. Again, the world is in an unpredictable state. Anything can happen next couple of years. I'm just, trying to understand the reasoning and the rationale behind it. And again, it's pretty simple. You got two passages, you got two nations, two competing power hubs looking to gain control of these routes and these critical trade posts along the way. And the United States is absolutely going to look to have a cut of that deal. They want a piece of that action, absolutely. And because of the receding ice caps, again, we don't know if they're going to start expanding again in our lifetimes or not. This is the opportunity that you take it. You strike the iron while it's hot, and that's what Donald Trump is trying to do here today. Also, this would create a lot of job opportunities for the United States and for the American people to go to a place like Greenland, to mine for resources, to expand like sea rights, again, expand all kinds of economic opportunities. Because Greenland itself is, for the longest time in human history, has been covered by ice and substantially underdeveloped because, again, nobody lives up here. So everything here is almost set up to be like a Manifest Destiny 2.0 because there's low density of people, the resources are relatively untouched, and the opportunities may potentially be plentiful. So again, these are my takes. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I appreciate y'all stopping by. Thank you, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.